glad to be there in Peradeniya after 16 years. I'm talking to you. It's really exciting. Uh, well, let's get into the topic. Today's seminar, I'll be talking about the human's role in the fourth industrial revolution, as Dr. Aseli mentioned. So we'll carry on. I'll just give a very quick introduction to myself again, because this will help the presentation in a way. Back in 2002, I was graduated in production engineering from your department. Immediately after graduation, I worked as a project engineer for about 1.5 years attached to the EDC, where I took over some project with Mass Holding. Thereafter, I joined the Joint Apparel Association Forum as a productivity manager. Well, that was my first in-depth exposure to lean manufacturing. I worked there for 2 years. Then I joined Avery Dennison, which is a US-based company operating in Biagama in Sri Lanka. As the industrial engineer, there again, it was mainly into lean manufacturing work I was taking over. Around 2009, with the experience from Avery Dennison, using those experience, I got my MBA in Management of Technology from University of Morocco back in 2009. And over the years, I was working with like human and technology. Then with the fourth industrial revolution, I started thinking about what the role of human be in the future. With that interest, in 2017, I joined the University of Lulea, Sweden. There was an opportunity that matches with my interest. And very recently, it was just few weeks back, I had my defense, and yeah, I'm continuing to work in Sweden in some capacities, but I'll be soon coming back to Sri Lanka. Hopefully, I will see you all. Yeah, let me start the presentation with a story. As I just mentioned, back in 2004, in this project attached to the EDC, I was visiting 6 factories of Mars Holdings. It was for an ergonomics survey. I started with Unichala Panadura, and I wanted the management to give me an opportunity to talk to the employees, to the shop floor. Then they said, yes, Prasanna, you can do that. And during the lunchtime, I was standing in front of over 2,000 ladies, I guess, explaining them the intent of my survey and how they can participate in the survey. Well, it was quite a lot of people, actually. After 15 years, back here in Sweden, we are reaching the Sweden mining industry regarding a project on the soft KPIs. That is the key performance indicators related to humans. And this is what we noticed.
Thank you for stopping. You're looking at the first truck in the world that could drive all by itself in these difficult conditions. It uses laser sensors to see. Time to drive on. Still a concept truck, but we are already testing it in real operation. This will truly change the mining industry and the whole society. It will make it more productive, more sustainable, and safer. And it's just the beginning.
Yeah, as Tobian mentioned, people who bring approximately 1.5 billion USD revenue. Uh, I guess I had been muted for a while. Can you all hear me? Uh, yeah, I hope it works because I cannot
Yes,
hear you.
yes, we can
All
hear
right,
you.
fine. Okay,
Yes,
let
sir.
me continue. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Well, what I want to emphasize here is that it is just 700 people who's working in this mine, bringing around 1.5 billion USD dollar revenue. Well, I agree that we cannot compare oranges with apples. It was apparel industry I was talking earlier. I just wanted to highlight how automation is taking over the industries. Those used to be very human intense. Mining industry, I guess you have some understanding of how it looks like. Of course, today, if I go back to the apparel industry in Sri Lanka, yeah, things have changed rapidly, and we see state of the art even in the apparel industry. Well, we'll continue. Uh, let's have a broader look what has been happening in the industry over the years. This will set the background to today's talk, basically. As you know, the first industrial revolution brought mechanization driven by the invention of the steam engine. After several decades, Ford started the mass production with the famous assembly lines, marking the second industrial revolution. Well, we are enough exposed to the shape of the third revolution, where information and communication technologies play the major role. The main character is the automation. More recently, we started talking about the fourth industrial revolution. Well, it goes beyond automation. It is the rise of intelligent systems where machines learn from each other and take in some of the decisions by their own. Now the question is, where are we? Where are the humans? Well, answering to that particular question, there are two major camps of thoughts. Uh, Fully automated systems uh, would be dominating. There you won't see sort of like any presence of human, you won't see. And second camp of thought is the human technology collaboration. Well, it's kind of technology helping humans to accomplish their work. Obviously, what we don't see is the dominance of humans anymore. That seems to be no longer an option. And our talk today is centered around these two camps of thoughts, and yeah, hopefully we will get some insights. Well, now I want you to participate in the presentation in a way. Well, when I say the Industry 4.0 or fourth industrial revolution, what comes to your mind? And sending you a link in the chat. Let me see. Yep. Yeah, I can do that here. Yeah, you must have received the link. You please click on that link and just type few keywords that comes to your mind when you hear the term Industry 4.0. Please go ahead. Yeah, I can see some inputs. Internet of Things, car, okay, digital twin, cobots, cyber physical systems, nice. Any more inputs? I hope you also can see the screen, the inputs you are giving. Okay, fine. Let's continue with the presentation. Thank you very much for, yeah, I can see some more inputs coming in AI. Fine. Nice, nice. Yeah. So let's continue. I'll take back the screen. Well, we saw a lot of technical terms. Maybe just let me stick to some of the very high level wordings, just a few, in a very high level, if you are to define what Industry 4.0 is. Well, the ability to collect huge amount of data is one major characteristic. Then comes increased connectivity, of course, intelligent systems, and this bring in this concept of self-awareness, machine being aware of themselves, and with that, their ability to even self-heal. So what drives this all? That is the question. It is actually the data. Now they call the quote that is becoming popular is data is the new oil. You know, like decades ago, oil has brought enormous amount of health and prosperity, undoubtedly, and data perhaps holds a similar potential in the future. Already today, data creates the top most valuable four brands in the world. Data has become the most valuable resource on the planet. Well, what could be the motivation for to have such data-driven, fully autonomous systems? Well, this is one major argument. Uh, History provides us enough examples about human errors. For example, the Titanic sinking and the meltdown of the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Humans have many limitations. Humans are unpredictable and they are biased. The actions as well as the non-actions can cause various types of errors. So this is a very strong claim. So that is why we should take humans away and let the data to run the show. Let's pause for a while anyway. Two recent crashes of Boeing 737 MAX planes remind us something. Does anyone want to briefly share what happened in these accidents? Very briefly, someone can unmute and mention few words.
I must say, Prasanna, it's due to sensor information related issue or controlling related sensor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, there was a faulty angle of attack sensor, uh, and it has this MCAS system, which is maneuvering characteristic augmentation system. The system thought that the plane is doing a steep climb, and it thought it is about to stall, but behind the screen it was the error in the angle of attack sensor. It was flying without any issue, but the faulty sensor gave this wrong information. Then the system itself automatically introduced it pushed down the aircraft nose and introduced in a rapid dive. uh, and the pilots could not simply determine how to intervene successfully, ending up with crashing and taking a lot of lives. Yeah. Well, what reflections can we get from these accidents? Well, we have been talking about data, dominance of data, uh, and we also talk about autonomous systems driven by the data being able to make decisions and their ability to figuring out anomalies in the data. But what is significant here? An anomaly shown in the data, a mere anomaly in the data may not be an abnormality in all the contexts. Many aspects of the situation could matter. Boeing 737 MAX is a classic case of anomalies shown in the data, yet the actual situation being perfectly normal. But of course, there are many remedies emerging with the fourth industrial revolution. We can actually see the tendency to collect more and more data, including the data about the context, the environment, so the systems can take better and informed decisions. Well, what can you call this collection of huge amount of data? That is what we call as big data. Fine. While yet there is an ongoing strive to determine how effectively to use this big data, there is an important element of training the autonomous systems. There should have been enough examples of abnormalities for the systems to be trained. Unless even the big data will not able to capture and interpret the abnormalities, those are very rare. Think about a black swan. Like if your big data does not include the color, because you usually don't think of uh, sensing the color of a swan. Usually it is white. But in case if there is a black swan, your big data still will not able to detect such very rare variation. So that is kind of a problem that we face with data. Moreover, this is something we should remember. Whatever happens is still the overall responsibility comes to human. So what can we do about this? In a recent issue of Harvard Business Review, they wrote this: collaborative intelligence. Humans and AI are joining forces. They did the research in a number of companies. And now the argument is the future should be a collaboration. Now we are moving to the second camp. Now you can feel. So it is not just the dominance of intelligent systems. It's kind of a collaboration of humans and AI. Let me show you an example. Here in Lulea, we do quite a lot of research with railways. On railways, track degradation is an important issue. And in this project, we talked about 3 methods for taking informed decisions about when to attend the repairs, such as regrinding the rail surface. Out of these 3 information sources, first we consider the data-driven methods. Well, those are the algorithms. Those can show anomalies in huge amount of data and classify them with a certain level of accuracy. Secondly, without leaving everything with the data-driven methods, we also incorporated physical modeling, which is something appears to be forgotten with the 4th Industrial Revolution. As you know, physical modeling is based on known principles or empirically driven relationships. It can be highly useful for describing the dynamics of different operating modes and variability in environmental stresses. But obviously, at the expense of the efforts required to develop and validate the physical model, that is not an easy task. Finally, comes the information in the work orders and maintenance reports. Those also carry a wealthy account of knowledge about various contexts related to deviations. Say a crack found on a track due to a very rare issue such as derailing of a train. These are the information the maintenance technicians write or verbalize in formal records. So in this project, we developed a descriptive model, how to have a synergy between these three types of methods: data-driven, physical modeling, and the knowledge that would have been verbalized by the maintenance technicians. What do you think? Is that all we can do? Still remains a question. Let's see whether this video clip can. Okay, can someone guess what the movie is? Please unmute and if someone can guess. It's the movie Rush. It's about Niki Lauda, and this character is about Niki Lauda, the Formula champion. This particular clip is famous because it is the first time Niki Lauda meets his wife. But I would say the clip can be famous for some other reasons. Let's see. This very influencing philosophical book written back in 1974 by Robert Pirsig, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, It is nothing to do with a religion. It is an inquiry into values itself. So in this book, Persig writes, each machine has its own unique personality, which probably could be defined as the intuitive sum of everything you know and feel about it. So the keywords we find here are the machine personality, intuitive sum, and the feelings about the machine. This sounds interesting. It is pretty much the same concept Michael Polanyi coined as personal knowledge back in 1950s. This is the knowledge that a person cannot verbalize. We on the previous slide saw the three circles, including the knowledge that the technicians could write. But there is an important element of knowledge that cannot be verbalized, that remains within the individuals as skills built into them. So this is what Michael Polanyi called the personal knowledge. Well, how does it fit into today's context, what we are talking about? Let's look at this slide. Well, we can hardly think of the fourth industrial revolution that is going to make all existing machines obsolete. That would not be the case. Like as per a study conducted by Cisco in 2015, by then almost 90% of the advanced machines remain disconnected from one another. That is not going to be the case in the fourth industrial revolution. Machine will be connected, and out of these machines, 75% of these were more than 20 years old. So the idea is to continue with these existing machines and coming up with technologies that enables converting them into digital systems in a way. But still we will be dealing with the existing machines. It is not going to be a total transformation. The Industry 4.0 won't be replacing the existing machines. Instead, it will be trying to connect the machines with the digital system. That will be the possible future. Well, let me go back to this personal knowledge thing I was talking about. If that is the case, if we are to deal with machines, those are 20 years old, well, then we can argue that there is a wealthy amount of knowledge within the technicians who have been dealing with those machines. I've been conducting a number of case studies in different domains, particularly in terms of maintenance aspects, that being my the area in my PhD. These case studies showed me the technicians use, of course, logical thinking when they are to do a troubleshooting. They go by the manual, they think logically, if this is not the case, what could be the case, and so on. Anyway, they were also using experience quite a lot. They just happen to feel a certain possible cause. It is just a recognition, a quick recognition of a situation with their experience. And you go further, it is kind of very intuitive feeling you get about a certain problem. They feel very strongly this should be the issue. And finally, you have the heuristics, which is the gut feeling. Well, with no level of confidence, you still feel this should be the problem. But if someone asks you what is your confidence, they would say, well, I don't know, I just feel this should be the problem. That is very like gut feeling alone. It is nothing beyond that. Well, that being the case, I found human technicians are using these different strategies when they deal with machines. Not only that, just look at these are few articles written in recent history. Now you see, like, intuition-centered architecture for big data analysis and synthesis. Well, this what tells us is that even the intelligent systems are now adapting the intuitive strategies. It is not just humans. So we now see a kind of a continuum from logical to heuristics. We could call the logical thinking the explicit knowledge. Heuristics is the implicit end, like explicit and implicit end. Uh, I don't want to make this a boring discussion, but this is what I want to land anyway. So let me explain it in a very in a way that you all can understand. So you have this explicit end and the implicit end, and as we just show on the slide, it is not just humans holding this explicit and implicit knowledge, but even intelligent systems. The tendency is to have a broader variety of knowledge, starting from explicit knowledge to implicit knowledge. Well, if we are to put this into a more formal representation, this can be fit into two dimensions. You have the implicit and explicit continuum, and then the intelligent systems and the humans. And if you carefully look at the different quadrants of these two dimensions, think about intelligent systems. Those are driven by rules, logic. Those are the advanced computations. Then you have the humans with the explicit knowledge, the knowledge the humans can verbalize, or the knowledge they could write on a report. Anyway, such knowledge is still limited because humans cannot verbalize everything they know. So then comes to the third quadrant, the implicit knowledge that resides within the humans, which is pretty much intuitive. But the question is, the fourth industrial revolutions will possibly keep the humans away from the machines. So now the question is, how could humans develop this sort of intuitive knowledge anymore? Because you don't have any physical contact anymore. So that is the question today. And finally, the quadrant is the implicit knowledge held by the intuitive systems, which can be called as a holistic intuition. Well, that is what we come to hear these days as black boxes, the deep learning. It is just the artificial neural networks making some inference, but you don't really understand why it makes such inference. It's very much intuitive and implicit. Well, if that is the case, you can see on each quadrant they have their own strengths as well as certain limitations. So in my research particularly, I've been talking about a remedy which is a collaboration. If it is possible to collaborate these four quadrants, we were arguing that should be the future. But it is just a very abstract thinking. How to make such collaboration possible? That is the question. Well, I will tell you a few more things about how to make it possible. These are my final few slides. We thought of making use of augmented reality. You know, augmented reality is becoming very popular in the fourth industrial revolutions. Humans having access to information right on top of an artificial layer, right there at the point of operation. Well, what we are trying to do is this: you have the humans, and you have the augmented reality assisted systems. And conventionally, augmented reality will provide visual instructions to the human technicians. Not only that, augmented reality systems are now able to even capture the wordings, the verbal protocols, the things the humans say. If you ask a human to think aloud, that is to talk out what they think, the intelligence systems are now able to capture the knowledge and in a way to synthesize that knowledge. But still remember, this is the knowledge that the technicians can verbalize, or what he can talk out. Well, we identified few more opportunities. That was the novelty of my research. Well, we were talking about the implicit knowledge, the human's ability to gather knowledge without much deliberation. If the intelligence systems themselves can help humans to gather implicit knowledge, that would be the best future. For example, say on the peripheral of the augmented reality goggles or whatever, on the peripheral, if some information can be presented, people without paying much deliberate attention, still they'll be seen something and they will come to learn certain things implicitly. That is their ability. Not only that, imagine an experienced technician reach into a machine to resolve a problem. There will be a unique pattern how he directs his attention, how he looks at different things. With the problem known to him, he'll be starting from one particular point and he'll be taking his attention along a certain in a certain fashion. If the intelligence system can capture this through the eye tracking, probably the intelligence system can also adapt. It is, I don't want to say that intelligence system should be doing the same. Instead, it can just incorporate, it can just collaborate that particular fashion whenever it comes to conduct a troubleshooting. So why not? Well, with that, hopefully, I am very sure this leaves you a lot of questions. I guess we have about 15 more minutes, so we can talk about it. I will take you to the last slide. So this is the blue ocean I want to emphasize. There has been attempts to collaborate humans and technology. Of course, we see the attempts to collaborate humans and technology physically in a way like letting the people to wear certain armed dresses, making humans more strong and so on. But this is a collaboration at the cognition level, human AI collaboration. And there has been very little amount of research conducted, and this would definitely be the future. And I'm glad the work I started is being continued at the Lulea University of Technology. We are just going to hire a few more PhD candidates, and we got funding as well. So at least in Lulea, that there will be a future for such collaboration. With that, I'll leave the floor for Q&A. And I thank you all for your kind attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna, for your excellent presentation. I hope that most of the participants will have many questions to ask, especially about this emerging area of research. So floor is open for your questions. So first you can raise your hands and then we can allow you to start, or you can just continue with the questions. There are two in a given time, so we'll give you priority accordingly. So yeah, so you can post now questions to Dr. Prasanna.
Dr. Prasanna, I have a question. May I ask you the question?
Okay, Rajiv, yeah, you can go first, and then we'll connect Jai Krishna second next one. Okay. So Rajiv, you can ask question, and then there's one more waiting.
Yes. So my question is, so what really sets apart human and machines? Is it, I know that emotion plays a big part, but is emotional decisions, is it really that bad, or is it actually needed? And if it is needed, what extent? And how, and if, and talking about talking about artificial intelligence, how have you, like, has emotions, human emotions, been incorporated to artificial intelligence? My questions just revolve around emotion in humans. If you can
Okay.
stick in about it.
Yeah. Yeah, Rajiv, thanks for that question. So as I understood, your question is how to kind of incorporate human emotions into artificial intelligence. Well,
Yes.
yeah. Probably uh, my answer would be, well, this attempt is not really to kind of mimic humans. That is not the attempt. So the question is, why should someone really attempt to uh, uh, kind of uh, bring about emotions to artificial intelligence? The necessity itself is a question. So I doubt why one should attempt doing that. Of course, there is a camp of thoughts to make humans more humanoid and to make a more intuitive sort of interaction between humans and machines. If AI can show some emotions, that would be a way to make that interaction more friendly and so on. But well, within the scope I was talking, actually it doesn't fall into my scope. I never wanted to kind of replicate human emotions in the AI. Instead, what I was talking about is the implicit knowledge itself, the knowledge the humans gain over the years with experience without deliberate attempts to learn. That is what we call as implicit knowledge. Well, I can still connect your question in a way to the context that I was talking about. One major problem is if you are to learn from human intuition, probably a major challenge would be how to distinguish human emotions and the intuition. That could be a good question to ask, because you don't really know whether humans are driven by emotions or they are intuitive knowledge, the knowledge they gathered over the years. Because even the humans themselves cannot distinguish when some feeling comes to me of a certain situation. Even I am not sure about whether it is my own implicit knowledge or my emotions playing the dominant role in that particular instant. That could be a question worth asking, and that is the very risk of bringing about human intuition into the scene. Actually, the intention was to take away the intuitive feelings, because it can sometimes be very risky, even the humans not knowing what really drives them behind. So that could be a question worth asking. Well, my very quick answer to that question would be, that is why we are not leaving everything with the humans. We let the AI to collaborate. So the suggestions, the intuitive feelings the humans come up with maybe can be kind of simulated in an AI environment, and the results would have been foreseen. So with that, if only the intuitive feeling is successful, we can embed it into system, and or in other words, to the knowledge base. That would be my answer to your question, Rajiv.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Prasanna.
Now, Dr. Jai Krishna, now it's your
Yeah,
turn.
yeah. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Prasanna. That was a wonderful presentation. I was able to clearly understand from your understanding of human factors in Industry 4.0. But I have two questions, which I think you could be able to answer this. Like you were speaking about decision making using in Industry 4.0. Like you have been discussing about artificial intelligence. So how artificial intelligence will help in Industry 4.0 transformation, especially in the case of decision making? This is my first question. And the next question could be, like, all of us fear about losing jobs due to the industrial transformation I mean, at every phase from 1.1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, we have the same question, but nevertheless, humans were not able to were not losing their jobs. But when you see artificial intelligence, there was a talk that even the lawyers could lose their jobs because all the lawsuits, I mean, all the discussions can go through AI. AI is going to be could replace everyone, especially in teaching. Wherever we say artificial intelligence is going to slowly take out everything, the human jobs. So, what is your feeling about that? Just these three questions, like AI, how it helps in decision making, considering human decisions. Second question about the job security.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jayakrishna, for that, for those two questions. Well, the first question is the role of AI in the fourth industrial revolution. Well, let me take you back to one of the slides I presented that could help me explain this. Well, if you compare the third industrial revolution and the fourth industrial revolution, how could you distinguish? Well, the third industrial revolution is pretty much about the automation. So we talk about PLCs. So that was the time the humans used to program the machines. So still the machine had a logical flow of operation which was programmed by humans. But instead, in the fourth industrial revolution, with the ability to collect huge amount of data and the machines being able to learn from each other in the global context, a machine operating in Sri Lanka will be having the experience of a machine based in Sweden. So they'll be sharing the experiences. So this is the access to the big data. With this big data, artificial intelligence, without having a proper logical sequence, still they will able to infer certain stuff, certain decisions. It is inference what we are talking about. And that is why explainable AI comes into importance. With these inferences, humans are not able to understand why AI is making certain suggestions or the decisions. So that is how it differs from the third industrial revolution, where you exactly knew what is the logic behind, and it could be interpreted in a way that humans can understand. So artificial intelligence, the dominance instead will be inference in certain scenarios with the access to big data, and humans will find it really difficult why AI is making such inference, because like it is not explainable. And of course, we now have this explainable AI coming into picture. There is a like group of researchers working on that. So, well, if I am to conclude my answer to your first part of your question, role of AI in the fourth industrial revolution, yes, that is what is dominating. AI is what is dominating the fourth industrial revolution because of the ability for it to gain huge amount of data and algorithms making inferences about different scenarios. Well, of course, coming to the second part of the question, what would be the role of the human? Well, in a way that was the topic we discussed today. And maybe your question is, we were suspecting humans to be kind of obsolete over the years with the emergence of different industrial revolution, but in a way it never happened. And if decisions are to be taken by AI, then the employment security, yes, those will potentially be questions. But in a way, humans will be still having a very dominating role with their expertise, say like whom to select the best algorithm out of options and whom to train an algorithm. These will be still left with humans. Of course, these will be data scientists mostly. But as I argued today, you could see we still need to incorporate the physical modeling and even the knowledge residing with the humans. So this being an arguable question, debatable question today, I am having my own thesis about this human AI collaboration. So with that, I would argue humans' presence will still be important, particularly the experts who have been working in the industry for years. That knowledge has to be in a way transferred to the AI, and of course even the intelligence system should have certain facilities for humans to keep gathering and enhancing their knowledge. That would be my answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions to ask from Dr. Prasanna?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Naman, please go ahead.
Okay, so you were explaining the in that video also that you shared, the person somehow it is implicit knowledge. He knew what there were problems with the car, right? So when it comes to your presentation, you're talking about machines making decisions without making it explicit why they are making those decisions. So the people don't understand why other people make the decisions. I mean, it's implicit, right? So capturing that knowledge has been around for a while. How when a person leaves a company, or maybe when a person retires, that knowledge goes away with the person. Right? So so there's a saying also, the knowledge of the company walks out of the door every day. The company, you in the workday. So does your research talk about how to capture that implicit knowledge of humans, leaving the machine part aside?
Yeah.
Is there anything new about how to capture the explicit knowledge of people?
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Namal. Let me take you to one slide. Yeah, it was the last slide actually. Yep. Well, yeah, what you're asking is really good. Of course, leaving the machines behind, still there is a question of capturing the implicit knowledge residing with the humans. Because like as we understood, that is the knowledge that the humans cannot verbalize or write on a certain thing. And even training someone for that knowledge is not easy. Well, as at now, although we don't see very formal mechanisms in the industrial context, if you consider academics or at least the research communities, of course there are techniques, particularly the cognitive task analysis is one of the technique. Like you being industrial engineers, you know what task analysis is. I need not to explain. But cognitive task analysis is analysis of cognition itself. That essentially involves detailed interviewing techniques and asking them to think aloud, yes, and observations, of course, participative observations. Those are few of the concepts, but still this implicit knowledge that resides within an individual is not possible to kind of elicitate completely. Elicitation of implicit knowledge has never been successful. Anyway, if we talk about a narrow scope, like say if it is a question of uh, someone's knowledge about one particular machine, if we bring down your problem to, if you narrow down your problem to such very specific question, yes, there are avenues of doing that. That is what I wanted to show in this slide. See the last element, eye tracking. That is just an example. We came up with some other techniques. This is in a way the technician, he could not explain why he's paying attention in a particular fashion. That is what he used to be doing. If he hear the noise in a very specific way, then he will be paying his attention in a unique way. If it will be a different fashion for a different noise coming out of the machine. So if the intelligent systems or the augmented reality can capture the way human pays his attention, of course, this is not about implanting sensors into a human's brain, but at least with his senses, there is, to a certain extent, there is a possibility. Eye tracking is one of the avenues. Of course, eye tracking is being used with the detectives, actually. How detectives use their experience to investigate a crime scene. They have been using eye tracking technology, and then they come to know in a particular scenario, this is how one expert individual pays attention uh, in a very unique manner. But if you still ask that same individual to explain the sequence of how he pays attention, probably he will not be able to explain, because it comes with his implicit knowledge. So here it is very maybe a starting point. There is a possibility of using future technologies to kind of elicitate implicit knowledge to a certain extent. But of course, elicitation it completely, I don't think will be possible. At least in movies you would see, yeah, they have been showing some movies where you can still kind of replicate your brain entire your neural network into a computer, but that is just the Hollywood what you are seeing as of now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So
I have one more question. Can I ask?
yeah, sure.
Yes. So, sir, as an undergraduate following industrial engineering, so during these times, I've been trying to do a couple of courses on Coursera, and when it comes to data science, there are so many different courses. For example, let me give you a few examples. Courses like AI, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, data analysis, analytics, statistics, and so on. So for an undergraduate for a complete beginner who wants to get into this area of expertise, how do you suggest, what areas do you suggest us to start being inquisitive on? And like what kind of courses would you suggest us to start learning the whole, like start learning if you are to enter this field? That's my questions.
Yeah, Rajiv, I guess even Dr. Asel might able to help you with that question. But anyway, if you can clarify what particular field you want to be, Rajiv, is it machine learning or industry 4.40? What
Honestly, sir, honestly, I honestly don't, I haven't really, I don't know actually what specific field I want to get into, but so are you suggesting that first I need to select a specific field, and then does it depend on that, or is there a general foundation or a general foundation that I can start learning and then specialize on a certain field?
Yeah, well, Rajiv, I would again say you will hopefully get a better answer from local expertise, like say Dr. Asel. But still, I would say, well, for me, for example, I've been working on lean manufacturing and those aspects over the years. But when I wanted to be in the industry 4.0, how I started, well, I think I got myself inspired watching YouTube. That was my start point. There are enough inspiration. Uh, there are nice channels, AI channel, Industry 4.0. Siemens does a nice channel. And probably you can spend hours just seeing what is happening around. because now you have access to a huge ocean of knowledge. So where to stop and what to do can really be a question. So you got to be inspired on a one particular thing, and then you would be learning alone. But just to tell you, if you are interested on Industry 4.0 itself, hardly you would see anything specifically on the Industry 4.0. Instead, you will find, on AI, machine learning, cyber physical systems, industrial Internet of Things, you will find elements those support Industry 4.40. But I guess you got to be exploring a bit more, and once you are inspired enough of what you want to be, probably you can have a very specific focus. As you said, yes, it is, you have access to endless knowledge sources, Coursera, and of course like many other education sources, mostly giving free access to you. I suggest you can have a bit more lengthy discussion with Dr. Asel or someone who sits with you and who knows who you are really well.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, Rajiv, I think yes, Dr. Prasanna said, so there are many, many sources to access. So initially at this moment, since you are in the third year level, I think you can explore possible avenues at the moment, as Dr. Prasanna suggested, and then we can have a lengthy discussion afterwards, probably, so that we can give some sort of directions for you to search the knowledge. But at the moment, depend on your interest, please explore the opportunities, and then we will discuss and see, depend on specific interest. I hope that we can direct you. Thank you for your question.
Thanks a lot.
Next, I saw one participant raise hand. Pri, are you there? So you can post your question. Sorry.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, of course, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interesting presentation, Dr. Prasanna. But actually, I'm not a technical person. I'm a sociologist, but I do have two questions following the first question and the second question. Actually, you were talking about how we can incorporate the emotions with the AI. But I have seen in the West or the developed countries, they have used AI in the elderly care, especially Netherlands and Germany and other countries. But I was wondering about actually whether it is really work out, because when we work in the elderly care, especially, I'm not talking about the nursing. I'm talking about when dealing with the elderly people and like providing them emotional supports and all the other kind of social support. What is the role of AI in that section, and what will happen to the people and their job security, especially when the machines play a big role? At the same time, we all know that at the end of the day, like we were thinking about the meaningful of work, or what is the job satisfaction of us, because we all like to do some sort of interesting thing. Then when the machines play a major role, what will happen to the job satisfaction or overall quality of working condition? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pri, and I'm glad to have a sociologist in the audience. That's a good thing. Well, Pri, answering to your first question, well, I would again say the emotions, which has never been my core area, but still, since I've been working on AI human collaboration, I cannot simply escape saying that. But like I've been seeing how they are trying to mimic emotions. Well, that will take years to replicate human emotions as such. But in a way, probably they will find some kind of totally different aspect which can probably be a substitution for emotions. I don't know if emotion is not a possibility of for a machine. Well, it could be some new sort of uh, concept that can emerge with the rise of AI itself, because we are simply trying to mimic humans. If that is not going to be the possibility, probably there will be something some new substitutions coming into picture. That could be a possibility. Even in elderly care, that could be a success. I don't know. But replicating emotions, of course, as at now, I don't think it has been successful, and they continue to do so. Anyway, I hope you understood what I am into. I wanted to keep emotions away from the intuitions. Intuition is the implicit knowledge. Emotion is, it is not really the knowledge, the instantaneous uh, drive that you get due to some other factors. It is not really the knowledge what we are talking about over there. But of course, keeping away emotions from the intuition is a problem that I mentioned answering to Rajiv's question. That could be falling into my domain, but that the answer is the same that I gave to Rajiv. And secondly, it is the job satisfaction. That is a very good question. I think, well, in one of the articles, that is how I ended my conclusions. Human AI collaboration will be the satisfaction of the future, because I never wanted AI to be dominating, but instead I'll be always talking about the human expertise along two avenues. I guess you understood over my talk. One way is that eliciting the knowledge residing within the human experts. With that, humans will be feeling satisfied. Well, why not? If the organization can elicitate the knowledge that is very much personal to you, but in a way, people would be restricting. Why should someone be knowing, taking off my skills, my personal knowledge from me? That could be a security issue, that could be an ethical issue. Yes, these are the foreseen problems. But anyway, someone would volunteer to kind of elicitate the knowledge personal to them. That might give them satisfaction. Secondly, the second line of thought I was talking about is providing the humans to gain implicit knowledge even in the future. I hope you understood my point on one slide. With human having less and less physical interactions with the machine, they won't be hearing the noise variation, they won't be feeling the temperature difference, they won't be smelling the gases, and with that, there will be very limited opportunities for humans to gain implicit knowledge. That is why I am suggesting to kind of introduce new technologies even with their absence right next to the machine. If the technology can kind of replicate that sensory feeling, that could help humans to gain implicit knowledge to a great extent. So these are the two lines of thoughts I am working on. So this will, in a way, will help humans to be satisfied as well, because they will feel they are in the scene, they are in the loop, and they still have a recognition in the system. That is my answer to your question, Pri.
Yeah, thank you very much for the comprehensive answer.
Thank you.
So we can take up one more question because we have already spent about 1.5 hours. So is there any more questions to Dr. Prasanna? So Dr. Prasanna, last I would like to ask one question before we wind up the session. Now there are many systems, especially with respect to the logistics and transportation. There are various ways of automating or autonomous driven vehicles, trains, etc. So what will be the future of it when you consider about the this type of errors like you mentioned in 737, etc. Even there are some countries, especially in suburban trains, etc., they are operating in autonomous manner. So how you can what will be the future for these things when you consider about the types of errors, mistakes which are going to happen in current level of human machine interfacing, as well as the fully autonomous way of driven the especially the transportation systems, etc.
Yeah, that would be a good point to conclude today's session. Well, if you really look at the numbers, like Tesla has been having a certain number of accidents, and Boeing, of course, 737, we had 2 crashes. But if you really compare, this is like a counter argument I am coming up with against my own thesis. Well, if you really compare maybe like incidents for million opportunities, well, as that now AI is doing fairly good. However, still those domains being very narrow. It could be like driving in expressways. It could be piloting in the commercial flights. It could be in a manufacturing context, the producing certain standard items. So then you kind of constrain AI into a narrow AI. So you can hardly think of an AI that has the ability to feel the social aspects or the dynamics, or like the ability to address any of the context humans are good at. So with that, I would say it would be really questionable if we leave everything for AIs. AI would be good at certain narrow functions, but if you really want to play AI in the real world with dynamics, then of course you got to keep humans in the loop. The answer being, now who is responsible for the 737 MAX incident? The CEO had to resign. So you cannot simply give the responsibility to AI. Humans have to be responsible. So if that is the case, humans should be knowing what is happening, and humans should have enough contributed developing those systems and making the decisions. So I would say in a different level of interactions, humans have to be definitely in the scene, in the loop, knowing what is happening and having good grip of the decisions taken by the AI in order to play a responsible role as socially responsible individuals.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prasanna. So last, if anybody really wanted to verify something before we wind up, please take up the chance. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. Is there anyone with another question? Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yeah, Amal, yes.
Sir, when it compare with the that industry 4.0, now currently that industries are going to cost-effective way to do their product, and I think it is a biggest challenge when we introducing the industrial 4.0 to that kind of an industry. So in apparel industry, I think the automation and industry 4.0 is a when it compared to automobile industry is a lower apparel industry. So it is a biggest challenging I think that industry 4.0 when introducing to that industry is a biggest challenge. What kind that kind of a industries I think sir, I think it is a biggest challenge. So if there are any if there are any that mean handling purposes also that apparel industry when that solving the main purpose they are solving. So the handling of that garment is very difficult. That some of them are easy to handle, but some of fabrics are it is difficult to handle. So that kind of garments actually that automation also less when compared to other industries. And also so I saw in I seen in that some of new technologies are involving, but it is a less in this apparel industry. So my question is, when it introducing to that industries that mean that they are that most of the industries are trying to do some work in cost-effective way. How we introducing that industrial 4.0 into that kind of industries?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Namal. I think your question revolves around two aspects: the cost and the complexity of the industry itself. Well, in
Yes.
terms of cost, of course, making something automated would be costly. But when it comes to sensors, now sensors are becoming extremely cheap. So data collection has enormous opportunity with the less and less expensive uh, sensors. But of course, in terms of making the robotics machines, yes, that would be a challenge. But anyway, Amal, like I'm talking about at least 10 years back, like when I was working at Avery Dennison, we had tough time introducing strings into the product we manufactured. Strings, I mean, to the hangers. I was to Kunshan couple of times, and China being the least expensive country for labors, they were still using robots, and they found it's cost effective than humans. And Chinese having the best dexterity for that matter, still they were using the robots. And you should not forget that Chinese are really good at making stuff in a very cheap fashion. So I see a big opportunity anyway, although it is expensive. Things are becoming less and less expensive anyway. And secondly, the dexterity. I mean, the complexity of the technology. Apparel industry being your example, Amal. What something you should remember is that uh, something I got inspired back in say 2003. I was working in the apparel industry quite heavily, and I noticed every 10 seconds the things will repeat. Girls will be doing this throughout the day. It's the same thing they do. And now we have technologies being able to observe these hand movements, trace these movements, and replicate those movements in a fairly good fashion. So I think in the fashion industry it could be challenging, yes, but in terms of at least in the lingeries, like these are very simple operations, those being repeated throughout the day. Probably that is where automation fits best. At least we can take this boring monotonous task out from the humans, because repeating the task every 10 minutes is I don't think I want to be doing that. And yeah, probably that is what automation should be taking over. But anyway, we were discussing, we were trying to distinguish the third revolution and the fourth revolution. Fourth revolution is pretty much into the cognition itself, the decision making. In the third revolution, we had the automation where we automated the physical tasks. So probably what you are talking about can fit into the third revolution. But today, the interest is in the cognition itself, that is decision making, knowledge acquisition, knowledge transfer. That has been what is dominating the fourth industrial revolution. Yep.
Yes, sir. I seen in that in apparel industry, I seen in the 3D printing part. I seen in a Japan company, they are producing that 3D printing machine. Nowadays, China also, they are producing that kind of a machine, that fully garment can be sew. That mean knitting machine. It is a knitting machine. If you want a T-shirt, can be knit using that kind of a machine. However, that there is, I agree with that. The technology also have, but that industry, that apparel industry, they are try to do things in cost effective way. But that kind of a machine, that 3D printing machine, I see, they are, I think that machine need a lot of that maintenance cost and initial capital when it compared to current process. That mean that currently doing the sewing process. Actually, that timing, that the new machines need more time to complete that product. But that I think technology now involving with this apparel industry also.
Yeah, that's true, Amal. Yes, it is evolving and many things being automated. There are different perspectives, like in a country like Sri Lanka, probably we should be a bit more responsible about uh, being able to employ people. Like in Sri Lanka, like I don't know how many thousands of employees are employed right now in the apparel industry. It's huge number of people. So those are some other aspects that you should be thinking. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not very clear what the question is, but anyway, what you raise is a valid question, and probably we don't have a very straightforward forward answer for your question. But it's a valuable thought what you are putting on the table. Yes.
Sir, I talking about those people are actually their knowledge is industry 4.0. That involvement is I seen in that Vietnam also. In there, that people that the industry 4.0 is actually they are not try to do things in the easiest way actually, because we are focusing to introduce new technologies and new things to do easiest way. So, but in those people are actually they are trying to that the cost cutting and doing work. So that industry 4.0 then difficult to introduce to those kind of industries. So my question is, what we do that kind of industries to introduce this kind of 4.0, industry 4.0.
Yes, some certain industries in certain countries will remain the same. Well, this is not a revolution that we talk about over the globe. So of course, this global wealth distribution and the advancement of technology will remain the same. So global uh, equality as such in terms of the revolution will not be a possibility. Well, of course, certain countries will have their own intentions of employing the people, and of course, in certain industries, human skills are important. Actually, that is the very thing we talked about today. How humans can be incorporated in the future. In a more different level, it was our focus was on the cognitive level. Of course, even in the physical level, yes, there are many challenges for automation in terms of the complexities of the industry as well as the cost aspect. So probably if you want me to be in a sort of advisory panel to Vietnam, yeah, I think I should spend more hours of what really goes around and making a sensible recommendation. But for the time being, yes, I can understand there are unique problems to different countries, and I don't have a universal answer to your question, basically.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Prasanna. So I hope that most of the participants who had the questions, I think he has given very valuable answers as well as his thoughts on various things. So I think this session we had almost same time we spent on Q&A as well. So sorry for keep you waiting, Dr. Prasanna, with many questions. But however, this is since this very new topic to our students as well as the staff members as well as the other participants, especially from DMIE alumni. So that's why many questions were there. Thank you very much for your valuable time, as well as enlightening us on this new topic. So hope that we will be able to invite you for future activities as well, because we are going to continue with this webinar series with various inputs from various end of different part of the world. So there are many alumni who are willing to contribute as well as some industry professionals. So we would like to invite you again once in a while to share with some of your new thoughts in new directions as well as new research outcome. So with that on the side, so I would like to invite Mr. Namal to first. I would like to share the as a token of appreciation, share the digital certificate for you so that you can keep this as a memory of the services you rendered to the department. Namal, can you share that? So thank you very much, Namal. So this is the digital way of appreciating your service. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Namal Bandaranaga to give the vote of thanks for today's webinar. Mr. Namal. Namal, your mic is muted. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So on behalf of Department of Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering, I would like to thank Dr. Illankoon for delivering this very entertaining and very enterprising speech. Thank you for taking time in preparing. I'm sure lots of preparation would have gone into, even though lecture is the talk is 1 hour, a lot of time would have gone into preparing it. It's a very interesting and very timely topic as well. So thank you very much for that speech. So we have been having this lecture series for a while, and since we moved online, we have been able to reach far corners of the world, very wide reach. So it's kind of a a hidden blessing of the lockdown, I suppose. So we have been more able to exploit the technology, which is not new, which has been around for a while, but the lockdown enabled us to use it more often. Okay, so one of the challenges, of course, in doing a speech like this is keeping the audience engaged. I think you did a wonderful job in doing that with, including videos, and you also introduced a very interesting polling technique to get the opinion of the input of the audience as well. So thank you very much again. Thank you very much everyone for joining this talk as well. So I would like to thank everyone who prepared the flyer, made the publicity, and gathered everyone. So thank you everyone for making this talk possible. And we are going to have another talk very soon. So there's a flyer for that. Let me briefly share that flyer before we wind up. Okay, so this is the next talk that we are going to have. So hopefully we'll see you all for that talk as well. Hope you can see it. Dr. Azela, shall we wind up then?
Yes, thank you very much, Namal, for giving the vote of thank and sharing this next flyer. So I would like to thank everybody, especially Dr. Prasanna Illankoon again on behalf of Department of Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering, as well as all the participants for spending time with us and asking very valuable questions and continue with the discussion. Thank you very much and have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. It was really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.